In the quiet town where the haunting howls filled the night air, people had grown accustomed to the eerie noise, though it sparked wild speculations and fear. Stories swirled about a dangerous creature roaming the outskirts, but no one dared investigate except Kate. She had recently moved to this mysterious little town, drawn to its tranquil atmosphere, only to be disturbed by the nightly howls that sent shivers down her spine. Unlike the townspeople, Kate was determined to discover the truth. Whenever she asked her neighbors about the unsettling noise, they seemed uneasy, offering vague responses and warnings. They told her the howls had been a nightly occurrence for the past 3 years, coming from a creature no one had seen but everyone feared. They urged her to ignore it, saying that anyone who sought out the source would surely regret it. But Kate couldn't ignore it. Every night, the howling seemed to grow louder, more desperate, pulling at her curiosity and compassion. Despite the warnings, Kate felt compelled to investigate. One cold, clear evening, unable to bear the mystery any longer, she grabbed her flashlight and ventured out. With each step, the howling intensified, guiding her to an old, abandoned construction site at the edge of town. As Kate approached a tall, rusted fence, her heart raced. She hesitated briefly, wondering if the townspeople's fears were justified. But then, gathering her courage, she peeked over the fence and shone her flashlight into the darkness. The beam of light landed on something that made her gasp, a creature, hunched and wild-looking, with matted fur and glowing eyes. It looked fierce, like something out of a nightmare. But when the creature howled again, Kate heard something in its voice that caught her attention. It wasn't anger, it was sorrow. Looking more closely, Kate realized the creature wasn't a monster at all. It was a dog. A large husky, its fur tangled and filthy, chained to a post with barely enough room to move. The poor dog's eyes, though wild with fear, held a deep sadness. Kate's fear turned to sympathy as she crouched down, her mind racing with questions. How had this dog been left here, chained and neglected for so long? Kate reached into her pocket and found a pack of cookies. It wasn't much, but it was all she had. She gently tossed them over the fence, and the dog lunged toward them, only to be jerked back by the heavy chain that bound it. The sight broke her heart. This dog had been living in misery, confined to a tiny space for years. Its only connection to the outside world, those mournful howls that filled the night. Determined to help, Kate left the site that night with a plan. The next morning, she went to the construction company's office and inquired about the dog. After some persistence, she was directed to Mr. James, the site manager. He seemed reluctant to talk about the dog at first, but eventually, he told Kate the story. The dog's name was Billy. He had wandered onto the site 3 years ago, and the workers, unsure of what to do, had chained him up, feeding him scraps and using him as a guard dog. But over time, the workers stopped caring, and Billy was left there, forgotten and neglected. Hearing this only strengthened Kate's resolve. She pleaded with Mr. James to let her take Billy, explaining that he deserved a better life. At first, Mr. James was hesitant. He warned Kate that Billy had become aggressive over the years, likely due to his prolonged isolation. He wasn't sure if Billy could be trusted around people, but Kate wouldn't be dissuaded. She believed that with enough love and patience, she could help Billy heal. With Mr. James's reluctant approval, Kate began visiting Billy every day. She brought food and treats, sitting quietly outside the fence, speaking to him in a calm voice. At first, Billy barked and growled at her, his hackles raised, a clear warning to stay away. But Kate didn't give up. Slowly, over the course of days, then weeks, Billy's aggressions started to fade. He began to recognize Kate's voice, and the once fearsome dog grew curious about her presence. One evening, after weeks of persistent visits, Kate approached the fence as usual, holding out a treat. This time, something was different. Billy didn't bark or growl. Instead, he cautiously stepped forward, sniffing at the treat in her hand. Kate's heart soared. She knelt down and gently reached through the fence, offering the treat. To her astonishment, Billy took it from her hand. It was a breakthrough. From that moment on, Billy's trust in Kate grew. She started visiting more frequently, bringing proper food, water, and blankets for him. Gradually, Billy allowed her to pet him, and she could see the dog's transformation begin. His eyes, once filled with fear and distrust, softened, and Kate knew that the time had come to take the next step. Kate contacted a local vet, explaining Billy's situation. Together, they devised a plan to help Billy transition from his life of neglect to one of care and love. The vet warned Kate that it would take time and patience to rehabilitate Billy fully, but Kate was ready for the challenge. The day finally arrived when Kate could unchain Billy for good. With treats in hand and a calm, reassuring voice, she approached him. Billy, now familiar with her routine, wagged his tail gently as she drew near. Kate carefully unhooked the heavy chain from his collar, and for the first time in 3 years, Billy was free. At first, Billy didn't seem to understand what had happened. He stood there, looking at Kate with confusion, as if waiting for the familiar pull of the chain. But when he realized he could move, his excitement was overwhelming. He took a tentative step forward, then another, and soon he was bounding across the yard, running in wide circles, his tail wagging furiously. Kate watched with tears in her eyes as Billy reveled in his newfound freedom, the joy on his face undeniable. Billy's recovery was not without challenges. Kate took him to the vet, where he was given vaccinations, a bath, and a thorough checkup. His matted fur was carefully trimmed, his nails clipped, and the ticks and fleas that had plagued him were finally removed. With each step of his transformation, Billy seemed to grow more confident, more at ease. The once neglected, aggressive dog was slowly becoming the loving companion Kate had always believed he could be. Kate brought Billy home, and as he stepped into her warm, cozy house, it was as if he had finally found the place he belonged. He quickly settled into his new life, sleeping on soft blankets, eating nutritious meals, and experiencing love and care for the first time in years. The howls that had once filled the night air were replaced with the peaceful sound of Billy's contented sighs as he curled up at Kate's feet. Word of Kate's rescue spread throughout the town, and the mysterious howling that had frightened everyone for so long became a story of hope and compassion. The townspeople, once fearful of the unknown creature, now admired Kate's bravery and kindness. And Billy, the dog who had been abandoned and forgotten, was now a beloved member of the community, a testament to the power of patience, love, and second chances. As Kate looked at Billy, now healthy and happy, she knew she had made the right choice. The journey had been difficult, but seeing Billy thrive in his new life filled her with a deep sense of fulfillment. Billy had found his home, and in doing so, Kate had found a companion whose gratitude and loyalty would last a lifetime. The haunting howls were gone, replaced by a bond that could never be broken.